So let's jump to the E library again. Now I'm going to go back to the E library, and this time I'm actually going to pick out the ICC books, the 2009 editions, by filtering them in my list. And I'm going to star all of them and quickly create a group so that I can use this within my search today. I'm going to click Save Start as Group and call this group Webinar. And now that I've created this group, I can reset my filters and click on this book group and identify these books at the top so I won't lose track of them. So let's enter our first search term to find out the changes in the application of sprayed fire-resistant materials. So I'm going to enter sprayed fire-resistant materials. And I'm also add another keyword at the end of it. I'm going to enter application to find the relevant section. And again, as soon as I click on Go, the list is populated. I see the International Building Code having 7 matches. So let me go ahead and click on the IBC 2009. And I see quite a lot of results within the table of contents. I don't want to go into one by one, look into which section is the relevant we're looking for. So I'm going to view all of the matches together by clicking on the right-hand corner here. And this way I see all of the search results together, and I can quickly scan which section they're in and what the content is. And I of course don't want to look at the special inspection section because I'm looking specifically for the application, the new application requirements. And here I see section 704, fire resistance rating of structural members. Let's take a look at this. And as I scroll down to find the 13 sprayed fire-resistant materials. Now, one of the requirements for application deals with the important substrate conditions. Now, the adhesion of sprayed fire-resistant materials are highly affected by the substrate. So there is a special condition for the substrates and the surface condition. It basically tells us that substrates to receive SFRM shall be free of dirt, oil, grease that prevents adhesion. And the substrates shall also be free of primers, paints, other than those fire tested and listed. And if they're not listed and if they're not tested, then a field test has to be made in order to make sure that the adhesion is maintained accordingly. So this is an important addition because this is one of the conditions that highly affects the performance of sprayed fire-resistant materials. So let's go back to our presentation. So we said in summary, the substrates that differ from the ones contained in the listing of the SFRM must be field tested for conformance. So that's one of the major additions in the 2009 IBC in terms of the application requirements. The second one is the high-rise buildings requirements for the sprayed fire-resistant materials. Now, we said that a higher bond strength is required in the new IBC 2009. And basically, it differs the high-rise buildings into 2 groups: high-rise buildings up to 420 feet high and high-rise buildings greater than 420 feet high. And the ones that are up to 420 feet, the minimum bond strength should be 430 pressure, and the ones higher than 420 feet should be minimum 1,000 pressure per square feet. So this is a new requirement in the 2009 IBC. So let's move on to our next requirement, our next change. Third, we're going to look at the exterior wall fire resistance requirements. There's a change in this, and let's look at what the previous code says to understand what the change is. Now, previously, the resistance rating of exterior walls was dependent on the fire separation distance, which side of the exterior wall, to determine which side was to receive rating for exposure to fire. Now, previously, if the fire separation distance was less than 5 feet, both sides had to be rated for exposure to fire. And if it was greater than 5 feet, then only the inside had to be rated for exposure to fire. Well, there was a concern here. And this is the graphic basically showing that in the 2006 IBC, if the fire separation distance is greater than 5 feet, only the inside needs to be rated for exposure to fire. And if it was greater than 5 feet, then if the fire separation distance was less than 5 feet or less, then both sides had to be rated to fire. Now, the concern was that the radiant heat in close proximity causes ignition of combustible components or a reduction of strength in non-combustible structural elements. What this means is that even above a fire separation distance of 5 feet, the buildings are close enough that a building-to-building fire may spread. So that's why in the 2009 IBC, the fire separation distance was increased from 5 feet to 10 feet, which basically determines that both sides need to be rated for exposure to fire under 10 feet in lieu of 5 feet in the 2006 IBC. So let's actually take a close look at the section to give you a better understanding. This time I'm going to use the search term exterior walls and exposure to fire. So let me go back to the e-library. And let me change the search term to exterior wall. And also I'm going to enter exposure to fire to find the relevant section. And I see that the results instantly are the two matches IBC. I'm going to click on that. And only one chapter has a match. So let me go ahead and click that. And I see section 705 exterior walls. And as I scroll down, in section 705.5 fire resistance rating for exterior walls, here I read that the required fire resistance rating of exterior walls greater than 10 feet with a fire separation distance greater than 10 feet shall be rated for exposure to fire from the inside. And if it's less than or equal to 10 feet, then it should be rated for exposure to fire from both sides. So that is the change. The 5 feet dimension has been increased to 10 feet. So now between 5 and 10 feet, you also have to rate the exterior wall for exposure to fire from both sides. So let's look at that graphically. Here you'll see that the 5 feet has been increased to 10 feet. So above 5 feet and below 10 feet, you have to provide rating to exposure to fire from both sides.